Welcome to this GCSE Biology revision video on transport in cells. We will cover the essentials of how substances move in and out of cells, focusing on diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. Cell transport is vital for life. Cells must constantly exchange substances like oxygen and glucose in, and waste products out. Inefficient transport leads to resource depletion and poisoning. We begin with Chapter 1, Diffusion. This process involves the movement of particles and requires no energy from the cell. Diffusion is the net movement of particles from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration, moving down the concentration gradient. It is a passive process, needing no cellular energy. Think of perfume spreading across a room. The key features of diffusion include it being a passive process, movement down a concentration gradient from high to low, and resulting in net movement until equilibrium is reached. The speed of diffusion is affected by three factors: a steeper concentration gradient, a shorter diffusion distance, and a larger surface area all increase the rate of diffusion. In the body, oxygen diffuses into cells because its concentration is low inside due to respiration and high outside. Carbon dioxide diffuses out for the opposite reason. It's high inside and low outside. The alveoli in the lungs are adapted for efficient gas diffusion with a large surface area, walls only one cell thick, a rich blood supply, and a moist surface. Remember the key rule for exams. Diffusion always moves particles down the concentration gradient, from high concentration, crowded, to low concentration, spacious, without requiring energy. Now for Chapter 2, Osmosis. This is the special case of water's journey across a membrane. Osmosis is a special type of diffusion, the net movement of water molecules only, through a partially permeable membrane, from a dilute solution, high water concentration, to a concentrated solution, low water concentration. It is also a passive process. A partially permeable membrane has tiny pores, allowing small molecules like water to pass through, but blocking larger solute molecules like glucose. The cell membrane is partially permeable, enabling osmosis. Water moves by osmosis from the dilute side to the concentrated side, down the water concentration gradient. Only water molecules move. Solute molecules stay put. In plant cells, osmosis is affected by the rigid cell wall. In adilute solution, cells become turgid, firm. In a concentrated solution, the cell shrinks and the membrane pulls away from the wall, called plasmolysis, causing the plant to wilt. Animal cells lack a cell wall, making osmosis consequences dramatic. In a dilute solution, the cell swells and may burst. In a concentrated solution, the cell shrinks and crenates, unable to function properly. Comparing plant and animal cells reveals a key difference. Plant cells have a cell wall which protects them from bursting in a dilute solution, becoming turgid instead. Animal cells lack this protection and may burst or lyse. Here is a crucial exam tip for the definition of osmosis. Memorize this precise wording. Osmosis is the net movement of water molecules from a dilute solution to a concentrated solution through a partially permeable membrane. We now move to Chapter 3, Active Transport. Unlike diffusion and osmosis, this process moves substances against the concentration gradient, which is the hard way, and requires energy. Active transport moves substances against the concentration gradient, from low concentration to high concentration. Because this is an uphill movement, it requires energy supplied by respiration, using carrier proteins in the cell membrane. The key features of active transport are: it moves against the gradient from low to high concentration, requires ATP energy from cellular respiration, and uses specific carrier proteins as pumps in the cell membrane. Active transport is powered by aerobic respiration. Glucose and oxygen are converted into ATP energy in the mitochondria, which is then used by carrier proteins to pump substances against the gradient. Root hair cells use active transport to absorb mineral ions like nitrates and magnesium from the soil. Since the concentration of these minerals is low in the soil, the cells must pump them in against the gradient. Active transport is also essential in the small intestine. After most glucose is absorbed, the concentration in the gut falls below that of the blood. Active transport ensures the remaining nutrients are absorbed efficiently into the bloodstream. Real-world examples include root hair cells pumping mineral ions from dilute soil water, and intestinal cells actively absorbing glucose and amino acids into the bloodstream after digestion. Cells requiring lots of active transport, such as root hair cells and muscle cells, are packed with mitochondria. Mitochondria are the organelles where the necessary ATP energy is produced through respiration. In our final chapter, we'll compare the three transport processes: diffusion, osmosis, and active transport side by side. This table shows the side-by-side comparison. Note the differences in what moves, the direction of movement, energy requirement, and membrane needs for diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. The concentration gradient is the critical driver. Diffusion and osmosis move down the gradient, while active transport works against it, essentially moving uphill. To maintain efficient diffusion, living organisms use strategies to ensure a steep concentration gradient. These include continuous respiration, blood flow, and ventilation. In summary, passive processes like diffusion and osmosis require no energy and move down the gradient. Active transport requires ATP energy and carrier proteins to move substances against the concentration gradient. Let's review key exam tips and common mistakes. Remember that osmosis only moves water. Specify water molecules in your answers. Diffusion goes high to low, while active transport goes low to high. Here are a few exam-style questions to test your understanding. Pause the video and try to answer them before moving on to the model answers in the next scene. For Q1, oxygen diffuses into muscles because respiration keeps the concentration low inside. For Q2, the plant cell loses water by osmosis and becomes plasmolyzed. For Q3, root hair cells have many mitochondria to provide energy for active transport. Ensure you know these key definitions precisely. Diffusion is passive movement high to low. Osmosis is water movement through a partially permeable membrane. Active transport moves substances low to high using energy from respiration. To summarize, master diffusion, osmosis, and active transport, including their movement direction and energy requirements. By understanding these concepts, you will be well prepared for your GCSE Biology exam. Good luck!